Welcome back to Invest Global. Today we're digging deep into Pakistan, how they got into this current situation where just earlier this week on Monday, the energy minister actually came out and stopped all energy production in the country, leaving massive blackouts. Just in last August in Pakistan, we saw massive floods. So things in the short term are very, very grim for Pakistan. Sadly, we see people like China and the IMF actually stepping in, offering loans, if not more loans, on top of Pakistan. We'll be discussing all this and more, breaking down the global significance, how this interrelates with other countries, as well as introducing the input-output reports with Invest Global. Let's get into it. If you didn't understand Pakistan from a global significance perspective, it's the 5th largest country in the world when it comes to population. They have very, very positive outlooks when you look over the next 20 to 30 years. So the country is only looking to grow, whereas the actual land mass, which dictates the natural resources, is the 33rd largest in the world. This creates for a situation where Pakistan has a ton of population, a lot of positive growth outlook, but in the short term, they're really hurting when it comes to imports and exports because they're a net importer of both food and energy. This creates for a situation where they're dependent upon Europe and surrounding countries. Pakistan is a very cash-poor country and very, very dependent on imports. So when you're looking at imports and exports to a country, a good way to analyze the actual trade balance, so if it's a deficit or a surplus, is just look at, okay, what is the money being brought in from exports, so sending out products into the global marketplace, versus what is the money being spent on imports, right? That balance, that equation will show you whether it's a deficit or a surplus. And in this case, it's just like an individual, right? The imports and exports, right? So what are they importing and what are they exporting? So what are the things that they're exporting? What are the things that they're creating for society, the goods and services? Well, if that balances out with their imports, with the things that they're actually spending on, right? So the inputs and the outputs, you can then see, okay, is this person going to be in debt, or are they going to have surplus? Are they going to have savings? Or are they going to build wealth? Those are things that are very, very important to understand when it comes to the input-output report for here in Invest Global. I'll have it linked down below in the description. It'll be a full in-depth input-output reports on Pakistan. This will be the first of many. We're planning to go over many of the countries around the world, analyze them from an input-output perspective, so you understand the global significance and understand if it's a good investment thesis moving forward. So, back to Pakistan. One thing that's very, very important to understand is they're the number one beneficiary of China's Belt and Road Initiative, right? This is the new Belt and Road building in Central Asia. Really interesting when you look at it from the perspective of the West, because not a lot of people even understand what's going on with the new Belt and Road Initiative, but they're investing heavily in these trade corridors. Pakistan is a very, very big one. Again, like I said, Pakistan for the long run has a very, very positive outlook when you look at population demographics. If you look at something like a population pyramid, typically you see emerging developing countries have the traditional population pyramid where all the younger people are at the bottom. And then as you go up the pyramid, it's shrinking, so all the retirees are kind of at the top with a very, very small percentage. Other countries rather starting to chimney where it's like this. We see that in places like Mexico, a lot in Central America, South America, as well as some places in Africa and Asia. But then the worst that you can get is an inverted pyramid like this. And this is where some countries have reached, which is a very, very negative outlook. Germany is kind of moving into this, where basically you have the small percentage of the population is very, very young ages, but a very, very high percentage of the population that are going to be dependents, retirees at the top. So Pakistan does fall into kind of this traditional population pyramid. So again, the long outlook is positive of the country, but short term, it's very, very sad to see what's going on. I think the IMF has given them about like 23 loans. They still have over, I think it's $6 billion owed to them. I'll do another in-depth video in Pakistan, kind of going through more of the details later this year, but I wanted to give you a basic overview so you'll understand what's going on. So just to kind of review, one of the issues we have here in Pakistan is they're a net importer. They're taking a lot of things in from countries. Along with this, their currency is devalued, so that kind of adds this double whammy effect, if you will, when it comes to imports and exports in Pakistan, and their overall importing costs, bringing things into the country, has really skyrocketed because not only has their currency devalued about 30%, well, energy prices have actually risen in Europe. One of the things that's very interesting to see is the main impact of these energy prices are not just in Europe. It's a second-order consequences effect, right? So the ripple effect in poor countries in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. And in Pakistan's case, they fall into this category. Since they have a lot of population, a lot of issues in the country currently, we're going to see how this all plays out. Ideally, things get better in the country, but I'm very curious to know your thoughts on Pakistan, what you think about this country moving forward. And those are really those three key things that I want you to understand is the currency devaluation, the import and exports, and the population, the demographic breakdown. Their currency reserves are dwindling. Pakistan has this major issue of currency reserves really dropping over the past year. If you just look at this on a chart, it's really dropped a lot. They only have a little bit to get them through, kind of through the end of here in January into February. We'll see again how this plays out for the rest of the year. Prayers for the people in Pakistan. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, stay up to date. I'll have the input-output report linked down below in the description. We'll do more of these moving forward. Thank you very much for watching. This was just an introduction on Pakistan. I appreciate your time.